It's that time of year again where the etudes have been released for all state, all region for this upcoming school year. So in this video, I'm going to talk about tips that will help you successfully play popper number 2. Hi, my name is Liz from Cellomoji.com, and I give you tips and tools so that you can learn how to play all of your cello music. So first off, I would definitely recommend in this popper etude that you definitely practice your G major, E minor, 2-octave, 3-octave scales. Definitely 3 octaves is a good way to practice getting into thumb position because that is something that is happening in this etude. So I would highly recommend that you review your scales because popper is all about patterns, and you'll often find that a lot of these patterns involve playing scales. Next tip is understand that they put a very specific metronome marking. Here it says quarter note is within the range of 67 to 82. Now that is a pretty large range for the quarter note, but I think that understand that when you are playing this popper etude, it isn't necessarily how fast can you go, but how lovely of a sound can you make, and what is the proper speed for your own playing to make you sound the best. Hey, I just wanted to pop in here to tell you about my complete popper number 2 tutorial course. If you are enjoying all these tips that you see in this video, stay tuned to the end and you'll see a sneak peek into this course where I really go in depth on how to play everything about this etude. So stay tuned to the end. All right, back to the video. I have definitely seen in the past that some students have opted to play the etude basically as fast as possible and kind of disregarding the metronome range. And after talking with several teachers about it, I will say that I think when someone gives you specific range of a metronome, you should try your best to stick to it. I don't think that you necessarily get any brownie points for going faster than, say, someone else. It will always be about making the best possible tone quality sound when you are playing this etude. And along those lines of making the best possible tone, it says play with a very steady bow. So that in itself should be a clue that when you are drawing your bow through these long slurs, that you're trying your best to make it sound effortless rather than, oh no, I'm running out of bow. I would definitely recommend when you are playing this etude and practicing it that you should practice it with different bowings. Obviously this etude has super long bow slurs over a large chunk of several measures, but again, it doesn't really help you feel confident about your left hand. So maybe start out with separate bow and then change to 2 notes to a bow, then 4 notes to a bow, then 8 notes to a bow, until finally you can actually do the bowing that is printed. There is no need to struggle with the bowing in the beginning when you're first learning the etude because you're probably not even playing it up to speed, and I will say that longer slurs are always better when you are within the tempo range than when you're going super slow. In this etude, there are a lot of chromatics, a lot of half steps happening all over this etude. So really be sure that you are being very particular with your finger spacings and where you are shifting to, because it is all too easy to kind of almost get into quarter tones if you're not being super accurate with your half steps. Look for things that are common that will help you find pitches. For example, in measure 9, the 2 notes before the large shift are identical to the 2 notes after the large shift. So this is just one example where you can find common notes and try to play it down low and then try to play it up high. That way your ear is learning to recognize what notes it's supposed to find. Pay attention to all the Roman numerals and the string names that are printed in this etude. Now, there are a lot of times where a lot of people would say, oh, fingerings are just a suggestion, and sometimes the fingerings don't even make sense. But in this case, I feel like the ones that you find in the popper etudes are legitimately good ones, and really try to figure out how can I incorporate these directions in my playing. Not only because it's what it says on the page, but because it will actually make playing the etude a lot easier. Rather than like having to shift around a lot, you're actually going to play a whole chunk in one position and then move to the next one, and so on and so forth. So please pay attention to it. Remember, Roman numerals always refer to string names, and not the position. A perfect example of this is within measures 10 through 12. There is a sequence or pattern that repeats itself that's happening in this section. So if you pay attention to all of the Roman numerals that are in there, it's going to make it a whole lot easier to play. Measure 14, those are half steps, so make sure your fingering is 1, 2, 3, 4. Try not to get too fancy with the fingerings, but try to see how many of these notes you can play without having to move your hand around. The tiny little X that you see in measure 15 is not standing for extension, but it stands for a double sharp. So remember, it is a double sharp means you're just putting 2 sharps or 2 half steps to the note that is printed. So in this case, that note is a G natural. Measure 21 and 22, again, pay attention to the string names, or if there are Roman numerals there, pay attention to that because it will help make this passage a whole lot easier. Just another note about fingerings. While I do think that fingerings are a little bit more flexible than, say, bowings, I do think that you can actually hear the difference when someone is up in position playing it or playing it in an easier position. Sometimes the tone qualities are the same. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to make that decision for yourself. What is the best example of you playing this etude? Now, if you can do it in position and play it in tune and make it sound good, then by all means, you should do that. But, you know, if you feel like every time you try it and it comes like crunch time and you're realizing that you can't ever get it in tune, then sure, play it in another position where you have to be in tune. Because ultimately, when it comes to the basics, such as playing notes in tune and playing the rhythms correctly, that's like a given. That's a standard part of playing this etude. Now, how you get there, it may be different for different people. The only thing that is a definite is the bowing. There is no wiggle room for that because the bowing in this case, I think, is one of the highlights of what makes this etude a little bit challenging. You definitely want to work on being a stickler for the bowing that you see in this etude. On that note about fingering, there's one little tweak that I would do at the end of measure 22. Now, this one is still playing the notes on the strings that it's meant to be on, but it's just making it a little bit easier perhaps. It's something that you can consider. So in my version, the original version has a 3 on the B natural, 2 on the A sharp, a 3 on the F sharp, and a 2 on the E sharp. But instead of that, I actually put a 4 on the B natural, and then 3 on the A sharp, 1 on the G sharp. So I'm not an extension, it's just 4, 3, 1. And then I pop over to the A string and I put a 4 on that F sharp, and then a 3 on that E sharp to finish out that measure. So in measure 26, it was actually marked on the TMEA website errata section. It actually marked out specific strings that they want you to play these notes on. So the B and the C sharp would be on the D string, so Roman numeral 2, and the last note of measure 26 would be on the G string. This is just continuing the sequence or the pattern that was happening on the previous notes before this certain section here, and they're just continuing that on. Now, when it comes to dynamics, there are not a lot of dynamics written in this pauper etude. It doesn't mean that you don't create any. I would definitely try to make this a very musical, lyrical line. If it's going up, maybe a crescendo. If it's coming down, maybe a diminuendo. You can kind of have your choice on that. But one important thing that I do want to point out is the very end of this etude is not written where you end loud. I mean, I think that some people would kind of get to the last 2 lines of the etude and be like, yes, we made it to the last 2 lines. Like, now I'm just gonna play nice and free and it's gonna be easy and you're gonna get all nice and loud. But if you look really carefully, the very end of the etude has a diminuendo into pianissimo. And if this is the section that is part of the audition, then that is definitely a key detail that you wanna pay attention to. So be careful of the dynamic markings that you choose. And again, if you're struggling with notes and pitches and everything, go for that first. But dynamics are definitely part of this, even though there may not be many written in this etude. But that is also an indication of how good is your bow control if you can add in dynamics while you're playing all the notes accurately. Okay, and then here's the key thing that I've been finding about a lot of students who have tried this is that it's kind of difficult to be a little bit even on all of these notes, especially the ones that are going by super fast. You may find that you're like rolling through a lot of the notes, or you may hear that some of the notes are not very even. So in that case, I would highly recommend you do some rhythm practice. Rhythm practice involves doing the combination of notes in a long, short, long, short, long, short, and then reversing it into short, long, short, long, short, long. And you go through that while trying to maintain the bowing. You're going to find that when you go back to normal and without all the extra rhythms and you're just trying to play through the etude, it's going to be a whole lot smoother. Your fingers are going to move a lot faster, and things are just going to work out a lot better. Remember, when you're doing this audition, it is a blind audition. At least it is where I am. And when you are playing this, it is all about how good can you sound. So say you're in the middle of the audition and you're playing this and you're like, oh no, I'm running out of bow. This is not going to fit in one bow. I would highly recommend just change your bow at the time, right? Because at that point, you just have to make a critical split-second decision. Am I gonna like try to squeeze out these notes in one bow, or am I gonna just change my bow and maintain good tone? It is all about good tone. You want the best possible sound that you can when you are playing this etude. So I would just say do whatever it takes to do that. And that's why when you're practicing, you want to practice with the bowing, so that way you can really figure out for yourself, how am I going to make all of these notes sound nice and easy and beautiful while I am trying to squeeze all of them into this one bow of a certain length. Well, if you stuck around until now, you're probably curious about the complete Popper number 2 course that I built. And in this course, I go through note by note on how to play every single note about this etude, plus a few extra bonuses. And here is that promised sneak peek into a little bit of this course. And all the details for signing up for this course will be below in the description box and in this link that you see on the screen right now. So if you are really enjoying these tutorials that I'm giving and you just want to get really in-depth and know exactly how to play everything about this etude, be sure to click on that link. So in measure 9, we are starting on the open G, and make sure you do the extensions, 1 for E flat and B flat. Open A. Now this is C, so I'm in half position, that's why it's a 3 on the C natural there. Okay, C to B flat. And then when you go to treble clef, those first 2 notes are also a C and B flat, just 1 octave higher. So let's do that again. C, B flat. C, B flat. Just as a reminder for thumb position, you really want to try to make sure your thumb is across 2 strings and is nice and balanced. You try to not want to be totally like flat against here, and you don't want your fingers to kind of be like this or your thumb to fly off. Your thumb should really be across 2 strings to help keep you balanced. And yes, the thumb is a finger that we will actually be using in thumb position, especially in this etude. And the symbol for that looks like a little lollipop. It's like a circle with a little, like a tiny little dash on the bottom there. So keep an eye out in the music for that thumb position sign. So let's do that again. We're down the C, B flat, high C, B flat, and then from there we play the E flat. Back to a B flat. I'm using my thumb for that. Now this next part, the A flat, I'm crossing over to the D string. I'm not moving my hand, it's in the same position, but you're playing an A flat now. Back to B flat with the thumb. Cross back down for the A flat. 2 on G. 1 on the F natural. 2 on the G. Well, I hope that you enjoyed that sneak peek into my Proper Number 2 course. And if you have any questions at all, or you are just really curious to check it out for yourself, be sure to click on the link in the description box below. So there are my tips on mastering Proper Number 2. Good luck on the audition. I know that auditions themselves can be a little bit kind of scary in itself and nerve-wracking. A lot of people deal with like nerves and getting very anxious about things, but the best thing I can tell you is everybody deals with it in a different way, and you have to find your own way of how you deal with that. I am not by any means saying that, you know, we just like wake up one day and, you know, suddenly it's easy. Even as a professional, you have to learn how to deal with your nerves and anxiety. They never really go away. It just becomes a matter of like, how well can we handle them and deal with them? So if you have any tips or any questions at all about this etude or nerves or anxiety or anything, please leave a comment below. I am more than happy to help out the best way that I can. Here are some videos that will help you on your cello journey, and I've also included a link to the video covering the other etude as part of this all-state, all-region audition. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!